I first fell in love with football during World Cup 90.
My dad was big into sport.
I was always, played sport, loved sport.
That's all we watched at home.
As Lynham was presenting Match of the Day as well, I thought I would love to do his job.
I think about sport 24/7, so it makes sense to sort of go down that route.
And the thought of being able to work on sports TV seemed like the dream job.
Let's go through to green and semi-green, cut green.
I was really interested in words and subtitling as a job.
I came from like a musical background, and then I came down for the interview and I just loved it.
There's nothing like live sport.
I'm very lucky to have the role that I have. I really enjoy what I'm doing, and I'm working for, I think, a really good company.
I really like problem solving. It sounds really geeky, but I love a crossword, and you kind of get that in the technology side, and that's why I love being our outside broadcast manager.
Davinson's such a big win last weekend. I'm an Asian woman, very much an outsider. I think when I started, there was no way in, but no pathway once you were in.
I started working a long time ago. There was no women within the engineering, or very few.
There was one woman that I worked with when I was kind of growing up in television, and she was a match director. She was absolutely an inspiration to me.
Now there's definitely a much higher female representation.
We underestimate the power of the presenters and the pundits that we see, and the voices that we hear.
How much is there a growing belief that you can pull off a great escape? I am a role model, and I do take that very seriously indeed.
I make it a real conscious effort to make myself as visible as possible.
Everyone knows that if you see more people like you doing a job, you're going to want to do it more, aren't you?
I feel that with my work, I've now opened a pathway for other people.
If you see it, you can be it.
I don't come from an engineering background. I say politics is really important to show other people they can do it too.
Now, as a mother of two, I actually realise that my role is massive, because when I was growing up, there was no one doing sport that looked like me.
I would say to me as a young girl, just do it. Just get your head down, just do it.
Getting to produce on the Premier League has been huge for me.
I do feel valued, which allows me to feel proud of what I do.
When you get to a point and you think this is there's no one else around me that's like me doing this, and I'm doing this, and you kind of have to check yourself and go, that's actually pretty cool.
The industry in the last probably 2 or 3 years has opened up massively to women in a way that it hasn't been open before. Okay, sounds good to me.
We do have some fantastic females already who are utterly brilliant, but we just need more people like it.
The last couple of gigs I've done, purely female teams, which is pretty remarkable to see, compared to where we were 8 years ago.
Men approach things one way, women approach it the other way. They both work really well together and they create the best environment. So actually it'd be great to kind of have a bit more of an equal input to make BT Sports output as good as we can make it.
Hello everybody, welcome to International Women's Day hosted by Rise and Disguise. My name is Carrie Wootton, and for those of you that don't know me, I'm the Managing Director of Rise, and I'm going to be your host this afternoon. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here in Disguise's stage in London, and we're really excited about our afternoon that we're going to spend with you. I also just want to say thank you to BT Sport for that amazing inspirational video. BT Sport are one of our partners on our education programme, Rise Up, and I think it's fair to say that that's really set the tone for our afternoon session and everything that we're going to discuss as part of International Women's Day this afternoon. So as some of you may know, the theme for International Women's Day this year is Choose to Challenge, and I've had lots of really interesting discussions around what this kind of Choose to Challenge theme means, and I know we're going to have some great insights into that this afternoon as well. But before we go any further, I would like to welcome Fernando Cufa, who is the CEO of Disguise, because I know that he would really like to welcome you all to this afternoon's session as well. Fernando, over to you. Lovely to see you. Thank you for hosting us this afternoon.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you for having me. And welcome, everyone. Welcome, ladies. I am super excited to be part of this event and to be involved in this event. So I too raise my left hand, and I too choose to challenge. And I'm very pleased to be here. Women at Disguise have made Disguise a better place to be, a better place to work. And we've got some amazing women in the team operating today in behind the scenes, but also in my team, my chief of staff and my chief people officer, Lorna and Abby. Amazing women that have helped me build a more diverse team. And we are not fast enough, but we are moving fast to having a great ratio of women in our team. So I'm super excited, and you would have seen in our video on social media, we've got women at the helm in China, in Korea, in the US, doing marketing in the UK, doing HR, doing tech. And we have a whole bunch of new young talent, young women coming as interns and apprentices, doing very technical jobs. So I'm super pleased to be here. And I just want to say, you are all wanted, you all belong here, and you deserve to be here. Please come and work with us, and please be with us. So thank you very much. And I look forward to hearing the great panelists and of course, our great speaker, Jackie Hose, later on. So thank you again.
No, thank you so much,
Carrie,
Fernando.
over to you.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I think that's so great to hear. And actually, some of those women that Fernando's been talking about are here backstage. They're all doing all of the fantastic technical jobs here. So thank you everybody for making this afternoon happen. And thank you, Fernando. That's a really cool. So Disguise are looking for talent. You heard it here. So let's move on. Let's move on to the main content of our session this afternoon. I'm absolutely thrilled to be welcoming Jackie Howes, who's the Director of Media Infrastructure Architect at Discovery. She is going to be our keynote speaker this afternoon. And I know she's got so much to say around the hashtag Choose to Challenge. And Jackie, I'm really thrilled that you're gonna be taking us through this keynote this afternoon.
Thank you, Karen.
There you are. I suddenly panicked that you might not be there, but there you are. Yes, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to kind of deliver this keynote for us. And I know that I and lots of others are really going to be fascinated by what you've got to say. So over to you, and thank you.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. Hello, everyone. Before I start, I do just want to take a moment to thank Carrie and the team from Rise for everything they do and the work that they've done today to make sure this event could go ahead. I'm sure in these difficult times, bringing this event together has not been easy. This has been a year like no other. So it's really nice to be involved in something positive. I'd like to thank the team from Disguise for helping to ensure that this event could go ahead, and everybody behind the scenes. As Carrie said, there's a majority female crew here today, and that is something that is great to see, something that I personally find very inspiring. So thank you everybody for your involvement. So choosing to challenge. Now, this is a great topic, and it is one that I've spent a lot of time thinking about over the last few weeks. Now, oftentimes when people describe us as challenging, it's not seen in a particularly positive light, especially when we as women are described like that. It's seen as something negative. Oh, she's very challenging. She's challenging to work with. It immediately paints a picture of somebody who is problematic and somebody who is difficult. However, as soon as you start talking about choosing to challenge, everything for me changes. When we talk about choosing something, for me, the choice means freedom. It means power. This changes the term from being something negative in a negative way that somebody else is going to use to describe me, but instead focuses on my part in deciding to challenge somebody or something. I'm no longer passively accepting someone else's definition of myself, but I'm actively choosing how I want to be. And that's what I want to focus on today. I don't want to talk about the negative connotations associated with the word challenge. I want to focus on the power that we exercise in the workplace and in our interactions with others when we choose to challenge. So I'd like to focus on three things. One, how we challenge ourselves. Two, how we challenge others in the workplace. And finally, how we deal with being challenged. So, challenging ourselves. Now, I have to say, I am not a fan of speaking in public. I find it uncomfortable. The nerves, I feel, quite literally gives me nightmares and makes me feel very uncomfortable. It's not something that I ever want to do. Yet here I am. So why am I here? Why not just take the easy road? Why push myself to be here? Now, throughout my career, I admit that I have not often taken the easy path. Ultimately, even the choice to pursue a technical career was not the easy choice for me. When I started training in this field, I stood out for a couple of different reasons. There were no other women who I could speak to in the technical field about the choice of career that I wanted to pursue. There were no other people of colour that I was interacting with whilst I was doing my training. Now, please don't misunderstand me. I was not the first Black woman in my field, not by a long shot. I just didn't have access to anyone that was like me, pursuing the career that I wanted to pursue. But ultimately, I chose this job, I chose this path because I love what I do. I love technology. I love the fact that I'm constantly learning new things every single day. I love how much technology changes and continues to change. I mean, the changes that we've seen in our industry in the past year have been astounding. Now, with challenges comes change. With challenges comes growth. When you challenge yourself, you start to have a better understanding of who you are and what you are capable of. As women from young, we are often told in 1,000,001 different ways of who we are and what we are capable of. We are told what we can achieve and what our limitations are. And again, as minorities, we are told exactly what boxes we belong to. We are told how others see us. This image of who we are is something that, if we are told often enough, can have a detrimental impact on our lives, on our dreams, and on our ambitions. It can impact what we expect to be able to have and what we think we can achieve. So to challenge the view that we have of ourselves, to challenge what we expect of ourselves, is an important way that we can fight against other people's definitions of who we are. Because what we do as an individual doesn't just simply impact us, it impacts those around us. Now, in the run-up to this event, I was talking to a colleague of mine, and we were talking about how we first met, which is something that we both remember very clearly, despite the fact that it was nearly 25 years ago. I had just started working in this industry, and at the time, I was working in a department where I was the only woman, I was the only person of colour, and I was very young. And I wasn't really seeing anyone else in the technical fields that looked like me. Anyway, my boss had told me to go down and meet this person who was bringing in some network switches. Being a geek, I was very excited. Oh, network switches. And when I went down to meet that person, I saw this woman. I saw this Black woman struggling with this switch that was nearly as big as she was. And we both got so excited. We both got excited to see somebody that reflected us who was doing what we chose to do. I remember we talked, we exchanged numbers, promised to stay in touch, because that relief of seeing someone that looked like us was so unbelievable. Now, we were talking about this the other day, and we did both remember it in the same way. And she said that last year, she went to site and she saw somebody, a Black woman, doing exactly what she was doing. And again, there was that feeling of excitement at seeing somebody that looked like you, that reflected you. They talked, they exchanged numbers, promised to keep in touch. But that's nearly 25 years later. Nearly 25 years later, and there's still that sense of relief when you see somebody that looks like you in your field. Today, being here is my challenge. I have chosen this challenge not just because I know that it will help me overcome some of my demons and help me grow as a person. I've chosen this challenge because it provides me with another opportunity to fight against all of those that would put me and people like me into a box. All of those people that will tell me that I can't. I choose the challenge because I personally know the encouragement that we can provide for others when we simply show up. That it gives us the visibility that we need, that it gives us the visibility that we crave. This visibility that is so important for the young to see, that is so important for people just starting out in this career to see. Now, I have worked in this industry for nearly 25 years now, and every single time I see a woman that is working in the technical fields, I feel encouraged, I feel empowered. So today, as you challenge yourself, you have an impact on how you see yourself, and you have an impact on how those people around you. As you challenge yourself, you encourage me to know that I can do more, that I don't have to be restricted to the box that others want to put me into. As I see you achieve and push yourselves to new heights, that gives me the courage to step forward and push myself to new heights. The impact that we can all have on each other can be absolutely amazing. So we've talked about how we choose to challenge ourselves, and by token, how that can lead us to challenge how we are viewed. Now I'd like to talk about how we challenge in the workplace. Now, I can't deny that I have often been described as challenging. And yes, that might not always be said in a positive way. But to be honest, it's something that I've decided to own, something that I've decided to embrace. Now, I'm not saying that I've decided to be difficult in the workplace. Again, others might see that as different. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I've decided to be the person who is going to give you an honest answer. I'll be the one that isn't necessarily going to assume that everything you say is right. But I'm going to need you to justify your thinking and your decision making, especially when it comes to technology choices or how we've decided to implement something. Now, the changes that we've seen in our industry over the last couple of decades has been astounding. When I started working in this industry, the worlds of traditional broadcast engineering and IT were very, very separate. However, what we've seen over the last few years is a fusion of these two worlds until something very new has been created. Now it's hard to tell where one technology field ends and another one begins. Part of those changes have come about by people no longer taking for granted that how we did things in the past is how we should do things in the future. These jumps in technology have a habit of starting because someone has stepped up and chosen to challenge the status quo of how we do things. Because people have decided that we need to rethink how we approach old problems. Now, I'm not suggesting that we all go into the office tomorrow and tell everybody that everything they're doing is wrong. That's not a wise thing to do. But what I am saying is that it's important for us to not just assume that everything we are told is the only way to do something. What I am saying is that it is important to ask people around you to explain why decisions are made and why we are going down a particular route. For me, it's very important that I understand why we're going down a certain road. Now, many years ago, I sat down for a very difficult conversation with my boss. I needed to explain to him what I thought my role was on his team. So we had a discussion in which I told him that I believed my role was to challenge his ideas, not necessarily in public, not in a career limiting way, that would not be wise, but in a respectful way, which is why I felt we had to have this one-to-one conversation. So I could explain to him that my intention was never to undermine him. I needed to explain to him that I believed in order for me to perform my job to the best of my abilities, in order to implement any plan that he had, and to ensure that his vision was implemented, I needed to question him. I needed to challenge his ideas, his plan, to present alternatives, and to give him an opportunity to justify why we would go down a particular road. I remember being very, very nervous about that conversation. It was uncomfortable. But what it was able to do was provide us with a framework in which we could work and communicate. My boss knew that if he asked me for my opinion, I would give him an honest answer. If I disagreed with him, I would say. What that also meant is that if I understood his reasonings behind a decision, regardless of whether I agreed with them, I could still take up the mantle if he wasn't around, and I could make sure that his vision would move forward and be implemented. Now, since then, I've decided to treat all of my bosses in exactly the same way. For me, to challenge my management is not a sign of disrespect. I am genuinely interested in the choices that they make and the decisions that they choose. I want to understand and learn how they made those decisions. I'm showing interest in their point of view. But at the same time, I'm showing that I am somebody to be respected, that I will just not blindly follow a plan without some context. Now, by showing my management that I'm a person that will speak honestly, I'm also showing them that I can be a sounding board to talk through difficult decisions, or alternatively, that I might have an alternative point of view that may be of value. To be in an environment where you cannot rely on individuals around you to offer their honest opinion is by no means an easy position to be in. I like to flatter myself that my manager is pleased that I'm willing to challenge him. Because as a manager, I know that to be surrounded by people who are not willing to challenge you is very difficult. To be in a meeting and to present an idea or an approach and just be met with silence is a very uncomfortable place to be in. For me, my initial thoughts are always, is anyone listening? Does any of this make sense? And then technically, does anybody actually understand what it is that I'm saying? Now, when I first became a manager, I was very young. And the first member of my team was even younger. He was at the time a very quiet, self-contained young man and absolutely never questioned me or my approach about anything. As I was young, naive, and inexperienced, I initially thought, this is great. I've got this new member of staff. He's always going to do exactly what I say. And since he wasn't questioning me, I assumed that I was always right. As I said, I was naive. After a while, I've got to say that this lack of feedback started to get me very, very concerned. I started to realize that the likelihood of me always being right was actually pretty remote. So I decided that there was one of two things going on. Either he didn't feel comfortable enough to question me, or alternatively, he didn't know as much as I'd previously thought he knew. I was pretty sure it wasn't the latter, but I had to be sure. I had to figure out which one it was. So I tried to create a safer environment for him where he would feel comfortable to challenge me. I would keep asking open-ended questions to see if I could get his opinion. I would try not to give my opinion first so I could hear honestly what he thought. But we happened to agree on a lot, so disagreement didn't actually come. Now, When disagreement did finally come, ironically, I wasn't pleased. We were doing some work one weekend. It seemed to have gone really well, and we were just patting ourselves on the back for a job well done. When we realized that we had a major problem. So the question was now, do we roll back, or do we leave everything in a safe and stable holding pattern, walk away, look for a solution, and address it on Monday morning? Now, I can't deny, I really wanted to leave. But by that time, I'd managed to foster a safer environment, working environment, where my colleague felt willing to challenge me. And he did. So whilst part of me really wished that he just waited one more day before he challenged me, I remember feeling a sense of relief and being very grateful that we'd finally got to this stage in our relationship. Now, I've gone on to work with him for 15 years in various different companies. He is one of my most trusted colleagues and allies, as well as a friend. I can always rely on him to tell me the truth, to force me to question myself, my ideas, and my views. I can rely on him to be a sounding board when I want to try a new approach. And I can't explain how valuable that is to me. Now, I've gone on to manage teams that are willing to question me and challenge me. And it's not always easy. Sometimes it's just plain exhausting, but there is something very satisfying to see your team becoming confident in their skills, confident enough to question you and to push you into a new direction. Sometimes you have to exercise patience because it isn't easy to be challenged. But in times when I start to feel annoyed, I just remind myself how much worse it is to have a team that don't feel comfortable enough to question you. Now, the reality is nobody is right all of the time. We need checks and balances in any system to ensure that the right decisions are made. So it helps me personally to know that the people that I work with are willing and confident and feel safe enough to be able to ask me to justify, to explain again, and to possibly look at a new direction. So what have we discussed? What have we learned? To be challenging is not to be difficult. To be challenging is not to be problematic. In choosing to challenge, we exert our power. We initiate change in ourselves and in those around us. To choose to challenge, to choose to challenge, is to choose to have a voice, to choose to tell your truth, to be heard. In the last 2 years, we've seen the power of voices choosing to challenge. The Me Too movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, are two movements that have had a profound impact on me and people throughout the world. These movements had an impact because individuals decided to stand up and to challenge. They challenged stereotypes and the so-called norms in the world around them. They shined a light on the atrocities that women and minorities have had to deal with for far too long. With courage, these individuals were willing to challenge and to stand up and to tell their truth. Last year, we also heard a lot about our allies, especially in relation to Black Lives Matter. Our allies who are willing to stand beside us, who are willing to encourage us, to help us and allow us the dignity to stand up and to challenge and to say our truths. Now, as you go through your career, as you go through your life, You will need to make choices. You will need to make decisions to challenge or not to challenge. But remember, every time you choose to challenge, you are exerting your power. You are showing your strength, and you are having an impact on those around you. As you encourage others around you to challenge, you are allowing them to grow, to show their strength and show their power. Choosing to challenge is not just something that is good to do. If you want your workplace, your world to reflect what you know it truly should be, if you want to grow as a person and have an impact on those around you, then it's not just about choosing to challenge. It is your responsibility to challenge. Thank you.
Oh, wow, Jackie, I'm going to huge round of applause. I know you can't, yeah, everybody in the studio here is clapping you. And I know everybody online will be as well. That was so unbelievably powerful. And I can see the relief in your face too. You've done it. Thank you so much. That was extraordinary. And there's so much in there. And I wish we had time to go through all of the questions that I know everybody will be asking. But I love the idea that Choose to Challenge is around initiating change, and that change can happen if we do choose to challenge. And I think that message is totally going to resonate with everybody today. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the weeks that you've spent preparing this. I know you've thought about it quite deeply in terms of the messaging that you wanted to get across today. So thank you from me, thank you from Rise and everybody, everybody watching. I know there'll be so many thoughts and questions, and thanks to you for kind of presenting the keynote today. So thank you. You can breathe now. You can relax. Yeah, thank you very much, Jackie.
Thank you so much. All right,
that was just wonderful.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie. Wow, that was just incredible, wasn't it? There was so much in there, and I'm actually really looking forward to kind of rewinding that and hearing it again, because I just think there were so many important messages in there about being a manager and challenging your managers, and then also just how you manage your team and giving them that kind of comfortable and safe environment to challenge. Yes, so many things that we can learn. But right, let's move on to our next session, which is called To Champion or To Challenge, funnily enough. And I'm absolutely delighted to be welcoming 5 guests. We've got 1 in person here, and we've got 4 online, who have all been involved in our Rise mentoring programme. They've been either mentors or mentees. So they've kind of been looking at challenging and championing. I can't say that word very easily, championing, whether to be to champion or to challenge. And we're going to discuss that a little bit more. So welcome, ladies. Lovely to see you. And I know I've got Tom Rockhill from Disguise joining us as well. Just grabbing his microphone. Hi, welcome. Hello, come and join us.
Thanks.
So as I said, we've got Tom from, where are you going to stand? Maybe that side.
Out the way of the speakers.
Yes,
there
everybody can see.
There we go. Hello, everyone.
So welcome, Tom from Disguise. We've also joined by Caroline Newerton from DAZN, Leanne Cole from Holden, Kalina Ho from SohoNet, and Snehal Gopi from BT. So hello, everybody. Lovely to see you this afternoon. Thank you for joining us. We talk about being a champion and being a challenger, don't we, in our Rise mentoring program? And I think you've all got kind of experience of that, whether you've been a mentee or a mentor. So I think I'm going to start with your mentors first, which is Tom and Caroline. So I'm quite interested to get your kind of perspective on what the difference is between a champion and a challenger, and when do you decide which one to be? So Tom, maybe we'll come to you first, because you were obviously one of our mentors. How do you know that that's the right decision to champion or to challenge?
Good question. So I can only speak about my specific experience working with Leanne, who's doing fantastically. And I sort of, even though we're not speaking as frequently as we were during the program, I see on LinkedIn that she's doing fantastic stuff and constantly growing and taking on new responsibility. But I think for me, it's case by case, isn't it? Working with Leanne, I could see she was obviously immensely talented, hardworking, dedicated, but was lacking that self-confidence. And so for me, it was like spotting where I could see that she was exhibiting some confidence or a desire to go and take a new opportunity or to do something herself. And for me, that was championing. I have to try and encourage her to do that. Challenge was more where I could see her doubting herself and could see her kind of maybe going within herself a little bit and deciding.
Nodding away.
But deciding. There were times where she'd taken on a lot of new responsibility in her role, and was doubting herself and felt like maybe she should just take a step back and not, be as brave as she thought she should be. And that was definitely for me a time to challenge, because the end goal is clear. She's obviously fantastic and hugely has masses of potential and ability, and that was my responsibility to try and bring that out in whatever way I could.
And I think that confidence thing is such a huge thing. I think everybody thinks it can be quite cliche, or just women suffer from lack of confidence, but actually I know from our perspective at Rise, we see that all of the time. So you obviously saw that with Leanne as well. Yeah,
definitely. I saw it in Leanne. I see it in my wife, and I see it in many of the women and female friends that I have around me. Is that jobs where my male friends might be more inclined to just step forward and throw themselves at it and see if it works. I think women are more perhaps considerate and perhaps more sensible, and take a more reserved view of the risks that they should take. But I think in the workplace, Ali, who's our head of marketing, I think is on the session here. She said something earlier. She said, what did she say? She said, exhibit fearlessness every day.
I love that motto.
That's great. I thought that's what you need to be doing. So yeah, I think that's pretty pertinent, a good way of thinking about it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's a really good motto. Leanne, does that resonate with you, kind of being on the receiving end of that, person being a champion or a challenger when you were working with Tom?
Absolutely, yeah. If you hadn't.
Oh, Leanne, we can't hear you that well. Are you able to turn up your mic a little bit?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Sorry.
That's right.
Definitely. If he hadn't have challenged my confidence, really, my self-doubt, definitely, I wouldn't be where I am today. And definitely within the workplace, it has been noticed that my confidence is soaring. So, yeah.
And I'm going to put Tom on the spot a bit here, but did Tom get it right in terms of when he was your champion and when he was your challenger?
Yes, definitely.
She had to say that, didn't she? And Caroline, let's come to you. How about you? When you've been a mentor, how have you found that process of being a champion or a challenger? And have you always known kind of instinctively when it's, when to be which one?
Can I just check that you can hear me okay?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. So I think, Izzy, you're absolutely right. I think intuition has a lot to do with this. As mentors, obviously, we don't know the answer to everything, nor are we experts in the mentee's life. So I think it's really important to connect with the mentee and really seek to understand them. And in a mentoring relationship, this becomes much easier than just challenging on a day-to-day in the workplace, because you do build that relationship of trust, don't you? So when to challenge, when to champion, for me, it really requires you to be present so you can really connect with the mentee, with the situation. Whenever you are having a conversation, seek to understand them, where they are coming from, really, absorb the view or the idea that is being presented at the moment, to be able to gauge if that view is coming from a place of opportunity or if it's coming from a place of fear or bias. So when we're focusing on the opportunity or the lesson that can be learned, then yes, champion all the way. You can just sense the energy, and you know that they're really expanding their minds and they are going as far as they can go. But the other side of that is if they're coming from a place of fear or self-doubt, or just the old feelings of imposter syndrome and all of that stuff that quite often gets in the way of great things happening for all of us. Limiting options and narrowing the scope of opportunity, then challenging is really, really important.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And how do you find people's reactions when they are being challenged? Like Jackie was talking about that kind of sense of fear, and actually what often you're trying to do when you are challenging someone is actually to open up some doors to kind of widen a conversation or to be challenged yourself. But how do people react when you are challenging them, do you think?
It's a good
question. Is it uncomfortable as well for them, I suppose, as a question?
I think it's, as humans, ordinarily, people don't like to be challenged. So knowing how to challenge is really key. So I think when challenge is done from a place of support and genuine connection and collaboration, it is usually accepted well. So sometimes simply say, personally, I think I would approach the situation this way based on this and this assumption. Provides a perspective that shows that that's all you're doing. You're just presenting your views, or you're just asking for more information, asking that person what they think, and you're inviting a healthy debate. and people are more likely to get on board than if you're just trying to challenge them for the sake of trying to catch them out, or simply impose your views on them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so it's about setting that scene, isn't it? And I think Jackie talked about that as well, didn't she? About just kind of creating that environment within the workplace where you can be challenged and also you can challenge other people. I think it is about making, I suppose it comes from a place of trust as well, doesn't it?
That's right. It's good for a place of trust and support.
Yeah. Tom, how about yourself? Have you ever been challenged in, I'm sure you might be, challenged in the workplace? And what has that felt like for you as well? And how have you responded to that personally?
You mean in terms of career progression?
Yeah. Or just career progression or a situation at work, or where you actually think, oh, actually, I'm being challenged here. How?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that in terms of like the concept of mentoring, I've relied on that heavily and been lucky enough to have really good mentors through my career.
Yeah.
And that's, unless you have somebody doing that, unless you have someone sitting on your shoulder, because like you know this stuff within you, right? Everything's within you. Now, your coach or your mentor isn't telling you anything revolutionary. They haven't got some secret source or some special message that you need to hear.
Yeah.
It's really just getting the best out of you. And so you need someone to kind of play off a little bit and to be able to go to when you're having a crisis at work, or whether you're having a crisis in confidence or whatever, to have that person that can kind of talk you through it a little bit. But often, as Leanne will say, well, as I know with Leanne, she comes, you come to your own conclusions. You know what you need to do, and you find that within yourself. It just takes somebody to kind of poke you in that direction. So I think this challenging is quite a strong word.
It totally is, isn't it?
It implies confrontation, but actually challenging is more like, just questioning, I think, that the way that perhaps the groove that you're sitting in that moment of time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's something we were really keen to discuss today, was about how challenging can be seen as quite negative, when actually, I mean, all the messaging we're here today is actually it's really positive, and we should embrace it. So Kalina, I might come to you now about, as a mentee, how you experienced when you were being challenged and what that kind of felt like you, because I know you had quite a kind of quite trajectory, didn't you, through your mentoring experience. So I'm putting words into your mouth here, but I think you were challenged at several points, weren't you? So what did that feel like?
Yeah, I was one of the mentees who at the time had the self-confidence issue as well, and it's really interesting that this topic of challenge, the word challenge being a negative connotation, because it was exactly that. People kind of see it as associate negativity with it, but I've kind of learned to see it as a way of, it's just a different point of view of looking at something. So for me, it really helped me with the mentorship, with how I was being asked different questions, looking at it from a different point of view, kind of getting to the same kind of conclusion, but with a different way. I like kind of associating the word challenge with, actually, it's a different perspective. You're kind of bouncing off each other, actually. And also,
which is what Tom was just saying.
Exactly. You're looking at it at a different point of view, rather than being challenging, as it were. So I did have a lot of questions asked, and I had to push myself out of my comfort zone as well. That's what my mentor was really good at, because I really did struggle with the self-confidence. I never would have done a public talk either.
And here you are.
Exactly. It was a real journey, but you kind of have to feel the fear and do it anyway, right? That's part of the challenging yourself part, and to help you grow. So that was what it meant for me.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. And Sneha, let's come to you. How did you experience that kind of champion and challenge moment in the mentoring program, and how did it make you kind of react and feel when that was being expressed to you?
I think for me, it made me think a lot. I think I always thought that I knew. I mean, I don't know what I want to do eventually, though I have an idea of where I want to be. And my mentor helped me to think about exactly what I want to be, and the different scenarios, or even different job aspects, and not just being where I am currently. And for me, initially, that was quite scary, but very eye-opening, I think. And having someone who can relate to how you feel, or even has been in your place, was really good. And I think, again, as Kalina is saying, I never thought about coming and doing public speaking either, because I'm quite, I won't say scared, but quite shy just to speak to an audience. But this is one thing I do for myself, to just challenge myself and just go and do it, because I mean, no one's going to bite me.
No, we're not going to bite you.
It's just going to increase my confidence. So yeah, it's quite a journey, but it's something you work towards. It doesn't come at one time. It's just small steps.
Yeah, and actually that theme of confidence in terms of speaking, we see that quite a lot at industry trade shows. I know the trade shows are working really hard to change this, or not, or any event actually, that when the organisers try and organise the sessions, they struggle to find female speakers. And actually, all of you talking about that actually just reflects what they see when they're organising these big events, because women don't necessarily want to speak. So actually, I think this is a really good message to get across, that actually we don't bite and that you can. And exactly as you say, you can do it. So Leanne, Khalida and Sneha, I know that actually, so you were mentees on our mentoring program, but you're actually mentors now. You're mentoring some 16 to 18-year-olds, young women across England. So Leanne, how do you think you will approach that kind of champion and challenger role? Have you thought about that and how you'll work with your mentee in that way, having been through that process yourself?
Yeah, I think being on the program itself is going to have really helped to now put those, skills and things that and experiences into practice. So definitely empathy. I mean, we're all in their shoes once, and there was nothing like this around when I was in school. So I just think, yeah, this is definitely going to be something positive for them.
Yeah, and I think you'll have learned, won't you, having had that relationship with Tom as your mentor, that actually you kind of understand some of the techniques and tools to kind of, as Tom was saying, about building confidence as well, and how to kind of impart that on the mentee that you'll be working with.
Yeah.
Kalina, how about you? How do you think you'll approach it, kind of being a challenger or a champion for these young women?
I'm very much of the kind of champion side. I think I'm naturally like a cheerleader. I'm always trying to stay positive, and I do think there's a lot to be said for positive reinforcement as well, especially with such young ladies at that age as well, from 16 to 18. A lot of insecurities, a lot of self-confidence issues as well, or just kind of second questioning themselves, even if they do know what they want. So I think a lot of positive reinforcement goes a long way. I know it certainly worked for me as well in my not only being challenged, but the championing really helped. So I think it'd be a nice balance. I think I'll mostly do the champion side of it, but I will also be asking her, let's say challenging question, but kind of bouncing off the different perspective, like asking her how to view things a different point of view, or what she thinks, guiding her in that way. I think that would be my approach, a nice balance between the both.
Yeah, amazing. Well, look, we're running out of time, but I've got one final question for you all, which is, what do you hope will come from this Choose to Challenge hashtag this year, or kind of where do you think it will kind of help women as we progress through 2021? Tom, maybe we'll start with you on that one.
What do I hope to come from the hashtag?
Yeah. Or around challenging, and how do we start to think about challenging more? Because hopefully that's what the hashtag is, that we choose to challenge more. What do we hope that might come from that this year?
I mean, there's lots of ways in which this, the whole system or this setup can be challenged, but I think really challenge yourself. Like you can start with yourself. It's an easy thing to do, and I think for Leanne and for me, we've been lucky to have good mentors who've been able to challenge us, but you can ask yourself those questions, check yourself before you turn something down, or before you decide that it's not for you, or you're not qualified, or you're not quite experienced enough. Just check yourself, challenge yourself, and think again. So that'd be my hope.
Yeah. Okay. Caroline, how about you? What do you hope might come from this kind of really empowering hashtag this year for International Women's Day?
Yes, absolutely empowering. I hope we will all come to a place of understanding that, any views that we have of the world are based on bias. They're all based on information that has been handed down from previous generations that had that information handed down to them. And it's, in bias kind of, we all have it. That's how we get our knowledge and our perception, our judgment of the world from, but we don't seem to be aware of it. We don't seem to think that, whatever version of the truth we know is the absolute truth. And I hope that with the hashtag, we'll have more healthy conversations, and that people will be invited to express their views and embrace diversity, and have a sort of more fully rounded conversation where different backgrounds and different beliefs can come together to achieve an outcome.
Yeah, amazing. Leanne, how about you? How are you going to embrace the hashtag Choose to Challenge this year?
Definitely more positivity around it. Going back to like what Jackie was saying, there's so much negativity on it, and I would certainly love to say, you know, challenge yourself, challenge others, and don't be afraid of being challenged.
Yeah, I mean, that was the message she was really clearly giving, wasn't it? Is actually don't be afraid to challenge, but also don't be afraid to be challenged back, and actually particularly in the work environment, because that can lead to so much more productivity and positivity and really good working relationships. Yeah. Sneha, how about you? What are you going to take from this year's hashtag?
I think it's more about coming out and just not to be scared to say whatever you think, and just challenge people, challenge yourself. And personally, at work, I do have this colleague who always challenges me with questions. And initially, I'm scared to just go and ask him stuff because I know he's going to be asking me questions. But now thinking about it, that's really helped me to grow. And I think I will embrace this even more.
Yeah, and that's what Jackie was saying, wasn't it? That actually that is the way to kind of lead to a better working relationship, and for you to be challenged. And as she said, we're not always right all of the time. And I think that's a good message for us all to hear. And Kalina, finally, how about you? How are you going to embrace the hashtag this year?
Similar to all the rest, but I think it's things like this Rise session and just talk exposure, I think, is a really good thing at the moment. Just asking the questions, highlighting it, making sure people are aware of it, and not being afraid to ask these kind of questions, and actually inspiring people to kind of ask those questions in the first place. I think this is a great kind of forum to do that, and every day I feel like International Women's Day builds and gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and the themes are brilliant and more people are getting involved, so it is really inspiring. So yeah, I'm looking forward to just seeing it get these kind of exposures and inspiring the younger generation as well.
Yeah, it's definitely making us think, if nothing else, isn't it? It's all, I think that it gives us a moment in the year to really think about what we can do to make positive change happen for the kind of coming 12 months. Well, look, thank you so much, all of you. It's brilliant to see you here this afternoon. We really appreciate you joining us. So thank you so much. And we will see you all soon. And thank you, Tom, for being here physically in the space. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
So that is our second session. We've just got one more that we will be wrapping up with. And that is a really hands-on practical session with Lorna Bains and Emily Plumtree, who are going to be talking to us about how we challenge, what that kind of physically looks like, and some things that we need to think about when we're thinking about walking into a challenging environment. So I'm really delighted that Emily and Lorna are joining us here today. And actually, Emily is actually physically here in the space as well. So Emily, welcome. Lovely to see you today. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm really looking forward to this session. So yeah, over to you.
Thank you so much, Carrie, and thank you so much. I'm so delighted to be here on International Women's Day, surrounded by these incredible women and speakers, and I just thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Emily. I'm an actor and a corporate coach, and I'm interested in bringing actors' tools into the corporate world to help us all become better communicators, more impactful speakers, and to enhance our personal presence. Today, we're going to be thinking about challenging. And what I'm really interested about is how that shows up for us, both physically through our body language and vocally through the voice when we're challenging. So we're going to be looking at that today and checking in that nothing's getting in our way of communicating our challenge in the most effective way possible. In my world, challenging happens every day. It's the role of the director to challenge the actor to see things in a different way. And I've learned to, because I've had to, love challenging. I love being challenged. I found that through being challenged comes great moments of creativity, innovation, and time for collaboration. So challenging is something I'm definitely a fan of, but I am aware, and we've heard lots of people talking today about the negative connotations that surround even the word challenge. I like to think about the objective behind everything that we do and the words that we use. There is always a need behind our speech. So whatever we're saying always has an objective or a need behind it. So it got me to thinking about what's the objective of challenging? Why are we doing it? And when thinking about the role of the challenger, I decided that the objective was that as the challenger, I wanted the challengee or the person receiving the challenge to really hear it, to really listen, and then to receive it, take it on board. I mean, they certainly might have an exchange about it or a differing opinion, and that's fine, but I need my challenge received, and then for it to spark action, and in the end, change, and then essentially growth for us personally and also for the business. So that's what I decided the objective was behind challenging. But we know there are negative connotations even with the word, okay? We are taught as women to get on with everybody, to be personable and likable, smile. Yeah, we hear those messages all the time. So then when it comes to challenging, that kind of goes in odds, or it goes against what we've been taught to believe. So a challenge can feel pushy or out of our comfort zone. You know, we might not feel confident enough to step forward and give a challenge. And so it can feel like a threat, not only to the person receiving the challenge, it can feel threatening for them, but also if you're uncomfortable with a sense of confrontation, you know, stepping forward, of raising your hand, I suppose. So we're going to look at what happens when we feel like we're under threat. And as human beings, as animals, when we feel under threat, our stress response is triggered. And that's our fight, or our flight response. So we're either squaring up for a fight, or we're getting as far away from the perceived danger as we possibly can. Our fight or flight response. So let's look at how that shows up in the body physically. So a fight response, there might be some posturing. So shoulders back, chin up. Yeah, might notice jaw tension, grinding teeth. Yeah, this kind of movement in the body, a posture here. Taking up a bit more space or even pacing. Yeah, that's territorial move. Yeah, we might notice this movement. Maybe even a clenched fist, might not be aware of it or conscious of it. It's just the body kicking in and saying, hey, there's a threat here. Okay, I'm up for this threat. Yeah. The voice might raise slightly. Increased amount of breath coming into the body. Yeah. So oxygen going to vital organs and muscles, getting us ready to square up for that fight. In a flight response, there are some similarities. So increased breath. Again, you might notice breath high up in the chest. You might notice fiddling or shuffling because the energy inside is saying, I need to run, I need to move, but they need to stay where they are to accept this challenge. So their energy is going to transfer into the body. So you might notice, playing with a watch or a piece of jewelry, hair, filling, shuffling, darting eyes around, these are all natural responses that are going to kick in a flight response. Also really common, and this happens a lot, have you ever had a lump in your throat when you've gone to speak? So perhaps you're standing up to give a big presentation or a pitch or a challenge, and suddenly you go to speak and the words aren't there. You can't get the words out. They're trapped. They feel like they're trapped in your throat. Yeah, really helpfully, what the body's doing there is saying, hey, listen, you don't need much saliva. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to decrease the amount of that because we don't need to eat right now, okay? Digestion's not a priority. We need to get out of here. So I'm going to divert all the energy to other places in the body. And just when you go to speak, you have a dry mouth and you're getting trapped up here. Also, you might notice this kind of touching of the neck area. Okay, these are all flight responses. So if we know that our objective is for our challenge to be heard, to be received, and for it to spark change, we can also recognize that in this fight or flight state, we're not going to be able to achieve our objective. No one's going to be hearing us or listening, that the attention is elsewhere. So what can we do? Well, that brings me to the next section. You might have noticed on the agenda that this says practical session, and that's how I work. So I'm always up on my feet, whether we are working in real life, and hopefully we'll be back doing that soon, or we're working via Zoom. So we're always up on our feet. So I'm going to invite you now to please stand up. This is a webinar link, so we can't see you. So if you just stand up and move your chair to one side and just check that you've got a little bit of space around you. The first thing I'd like to do is a little exercise called click and clap. So I'm going to click, and all I'd like you to do in response is clap. Oh, thanks, Carrie. So I'll click and you'll clap. Great. I might click, and you would. Good. I might click and clap, and you would. Clap and click. Okay, good. So waking up our brains this afternoon as well as our bodies. Why am I doing this? Well, it's really just to demonstrate a point on connection and exchange. So when we're challenging, we're looking to connect in with the person we're challenging, but also to receive back any information they're giving back to me. So I'm here with you, I'm here, I'm present, I'm in this moment. You're here, you're present with me, and we are hearing one another. It's so key, it's so important. No distractions, I'm here with you. Good, okay, I need to check my cue cards to see what's next. Okay, good. So we're going to check in with the body, and we're just going to see if we can get ourselves into a neutral position to start with before we continue with a bit more work. Great. So the way I like to do this, I call it heads, shoulders, knees, and toes. My daughter is at preschool at the moment, and she came home the other day. She was singing the song, and I thought it's perfect. So head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Best way to remember it. We'll go in reverse. So we're going to start with our toes, and just check you can see. Yeah, feet, great. So starting with our feet, I just want you to check the direction of your feet. So they should be facing forward in parallel. Just check they're not splaying outwards or pigeon toes inwards, because what that's going to do is affect your posture. I'll just try and show you from the side. So if my feet splay out, it affects my spine. So we're all connected. If my feet splay in, it's rolling my shoulders forward. So you'll notice I look less powerful than if I roll my shoulders back and my feet are in parallel. Good. Okay, so I'm going to start in parallel. That's direction. Distance. Check, and this is very common in women, check that your feet aren't very close together. Okay, it's an apologetic stance. Take up more space in the world. Okay, it's your right, it's your space too. Really helps with them. I've heard a lot about confidence this afternoon. Yeah, so just dare to take that space. Good, that's distance, shoulder width apart. Then we're going to think about weight, the weight on your feet. Best way to do this is to think about, say this is the sole of my foot. There's one point beneath your big toe. There's another point beneath your little toe. And then the final point, point 3, is in your heel. So just imagine those points in your feet now. And what I'd like you to do, just connect in with your mind's eye with those 3 points on the soles of your feet. I just want you to apply some tension, so pressing down into the ground, into those points. If you do nothing else when you stand up to speak or present, or when you stand to challenge, do this, okay? It will root you, it will ground you. You will appear totally present, totally in control, even if you don't feel it, trust me. So you're gonna press down into those points. It's also really useful if you want to transfer any tension. If you're feeling nervous and it comes up into the shoulders, just relax and release the shoulders and press down into the feet instead. Transfer that tension. Good. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Knees. Just give your knees a little wiggle. That's it. Just check you're not locking the knees. There isn't any tension there. Okay, you want to be able to move freely. Shoulders, we just spoke about. Just lift them up and let them drop. Lift them up and let them drop, and just give them a little roll. We hold a lot of tension here, especially at the moment because we're in computers all day, you know, we're on screens. So just to release there. And heads, I'm really talking about eye line, eye contact. So key in all communication that we're making eye contact with the person we're talking to. I know we're living in an online world at the moment and soon hybrid, and there's always going to be this on-screen situation going on. So what I would encourage you to do if you are challenging or communicating on Zoom is to find or locate the camera rather than just looking generally at the screen, because what it does is it replicates that in real life human connection. If you can use the camera rather than looking at yourself or others on the screen, that's really going to help you tune in and build that connection with whoever you're talking to. So that's our heads, shoulders, knees, and toes. I'm just checking the time. Good. So I'd like to talk to you about the 3 types of communication energy that I think exist. And I believe them to exist on a scale. And on our scale, we've got our inward communication energy, our inward. We've got at the other end of the scale, our outward communication energy, our outward, it pushes out into the world. In the middle of our scale, right bang in the middle, in absolute harmony and balance, is our connected communication energy. And I'm sure you can tell that this is what I want you to strive for in all communication. This is what we're looking for, this connection. And that goes for, if you're speaking to a large room or if you're speaking in a one-to-one, okay? Good. We will all naturally feel more comfortable in a certain position on the scale, and that's fine. I'm not saying that this is wrong or this is wrong. All I'm saying is sometimes they can get in the way of reaching connection with another person. Okay, so there are going to be some tips and tricks we can talk about now in how we can help ourselves reach this greater state of connection. The best way to do it is to experience it physically. So what I'd like you to do with me now is we're going to go over here on the scale. I think that's all right. Yeah, just getting used to this screen, this amazing screen. So we're going to be down here, not down here, along here. Don't think of it down as down and up. So we're going to be here in inward communication energy. We're going to remember our heads, shoulders, knees, and toes, and start with the feet. So what I'd like you to do is just narrow off your stance. So bring your feet closer together. Knees will come in, and then we're going to think about shoulders. Now, shoulders are going to be affected by what's going on in inward communication with the arms, which might close off the body. So you might get one arm coming across, you might get 2 arms coming across. Very common common in women as well to notice this sort of non-verbal cue. 55% of communication is non-verbal. So it's really important that we're just attuned to these physical cues that we're giving that we might not be aware of. So closing off the body a little bit, it's going to roll the shoulders down. Notice how I suddenly look apologetic in the way that I'm standing, okay? I might know exactly what I'm talking about, but if I deliver it in this way, it's not going to reach the person I'm talking to. Heads, so eye line, that will probably be down or darting, not making extended eye contact. It might feel a little bit uncomfortable if you're in this kind of inward communication energy. Voice. Often the voice in this inward energy is too low for the space. So it just becomes a little bit quieter and not quite enough for the space. Okay, so we just, I'll speak louder, but generally inward would just be a little bit. And you might notice mumbling and a reduced amount of articulation, which is how much the mouth is moving. So particularly in London, we don't, as a general, we don't tend to move our mouths that much. Yes, you might get mumbling, and then it's difficult to get your point across when you're mumbling. So just increasing the articulation, but we'll talk about that. Good, so this is inwards, and I'm going to show you what inward looks like. And what I'd like you to do is we're going to go for this. Can we try and use the chat function now? So if you can open up your chat function, I know you're on the webinar. And my first question, and I just love it, if you could just pop down any ideas in the chat, and then I'm going to have a try of reading it off here. And if I can't read it off here, I might ask if Carrie, you might be able to read something out for me. I might be able to read it. Have a go. So my first question is, what is your first impression of this person? So I'll stand in this inward communication energy, and I would just love to know, what's your first impression of this person? It would be great if we could read out I think there are some messages coming in at the bottom. Great. Okay, I can see them. Hurrah. Shy, nervous, scared, uncertain, apologetic. Thank you so much for giving your responses. It's so nice to know that you're on the other side. Yeah, shrinking, defensive. Yes, we've got that as well. Not only shy or unsure, maybe that sense of someone being defensive or putting a wall up. Great. New question, second question. You are receiving a challenge from someone in this inward communication energy. You are receiving a challenge. How do you feel about that? How does it make you feel? You are receiving a challenge and the person is in this energy space. How does it make you feel as the person being challenged? Some ideas in the chat, please. Oh, it's going so fast. It's great. I can't make, confused. You look really uncertain. You're not confident. Yeah, you feel awkward and uncomfortable. Yeah, it might make you feel awkward as well. It's transference again. Not confident about what you're saying. You don't know what you're talking about. Good. So as I talked about before, you might know everything there is to know on a subject, but if you deliver what you have to say in a way that we can't hear you, we can't see you, you're not stepping into this connected energy, then we're not going to believe you. Okay, that's that 55% nonverbal. We're not going to believe what you have to say. Final question. So we're going to look at the flip side. Final question. Someone you are challenging, and let's assume you're challenging them from connection. Someone you are challenging is responding to the challenge in this physical state. What would you believe is going on for them? What would you believe is going on for them? Yeah, they're defensive. Good. I'd feel like a bully. Yeah, it makes you feel guilty. And then suddenly you question, should I be challenging? I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I'm saying. Holding something, doesn't want to talk. Good. I've just had a few minutes warning, so I'm going to speed up and I might stop using the chat, but I'm absolutely loving getting your responses. Thank you so much. So how can we help you out of this inward state? Well, you're going to have to be brave. You're going to have to be bold. Widen that stance. Increase your volume. Dare to speak and be heard. Believe that what you have to say is of real value because it is. Okay? Trust yourself. What can we do to someone who's experiencing this? Well, we're not going to meet them with an outward energy because that's going to intimidate them further. If we meet them in inward, we're never going to get anywhere. Okay, so we're going to have to step into connection. Okay, that's what we're looking for. Also, a glass of water, really helpful for anyone that's suffering and finding it hard to speak. So I'm going to whiz up here to outward communication energy. Take up as much space in the world as you can. If you can do that for me physically now, that would be great. Start with the feet. Shoulders, legs, arms, everything pushing out into the world. And also I'm going to use too much volume, okay? Because I'm going to impose my idea with loads of volume because then you're going to listen to me. And also I'm probably going to speak quite quickly because then you don't get a chance to cut in, okay? Because what I have to say is really, really important. Breathe. Okay. First impressions of this person, actually. Can you write it in the chat for me? Rude, arrogant. I'm going to make some up, but I know what you're going to say. Aggressive, absolutely. Not confident, interestingly. Putting on a show, cocky. Good. You're receiving a challenge from this person. How do you feel? How do you feel receiving a challenge from this person? No, wound up. Yeah, affronted, resistant, intimidated, all of these words. So we know we're not going to achieve our objective of our challenge being reached if we're approaching it with this outward energy. Last question. The person that you are challenging is reacting in this way. What do you read from them? What's going on for them? Yeah, you're delivering a challenge. Lorna said she'd be terrified if she was challenged outward. I think so, yeah. So what's going on for them? Well, perhaps they're defensive. They don't understand. They're on the attack. Yeah, we talked about that. It's similar to the fight response, isn't it? And inward is similar to the flight. Good. They seem triggered. Something's going on for them. How do we help them out of it? Well, don't meet it with outward, okay? Because you're going to get major conflict. Don't meet it with inward. You're not going to be heard. You got to step into connection. It's the only way we're going to communicate and have this 50-50 exchange, okay? Similarly, if you are challenging and you feel that you naturally go into this state, you've just got to dial it down. You've got to check in with yourself, have greater awareness. Okay, I could appear intimidating. I'm going to lower my voice. I'm going to give that person some space. I'm on my 1 minute warning, I think. And we're just going to take a little bit of space and give them time to breathe. Okay. So these are all ways that we can adjust to help us into greater connection. And hopefully by raising your awareness of some of these nonverbal cues today, you'll be able to check in with yourselves going forward as well. Challenging in itself is challenging. It's a challenge. But the more we do it, the less of a challenge it will feel. All the time that it feels like a threat, our fight or flight is going to be triggered. But I'm hoping that by knowing what to do, we can now regulate this and help ourselves become better communicators. If you recognize yourself somewhere here on the scale in this more inward, my challenge to you today is to take a step into your power and into greater connection. If you find yourself more naturally in this area of the scale, this outward energy, then my challenge to you today is to take a step into your vulnerability and reach this greater place of connection, because then your challenge will be heard, it will be received, and it can spark action and then positive change. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Emily. That was so fantastic. And I know Lorna is going to be, oh, can you actually see me? No, you can't. Hello.
There we can. Hello.
Thank you. That was absolutely fascinating. And we could have spent hours on that. I know.
So could I.
Yeah. I know, sorry. I was
No, not at all.
And I know Lorna is picking up the second bit of this, isn't she, before
Yeah.
we finish for today. Are you here, Lorna? We'll magically see you.
am.
There you are.
Hello. Step out the way.
Now I'm seeing several of me, so I'm going to do a hide selfie.
Well, brilliant. Thank you,
Emily.
Lorna.
That was amazing. I've done work like this with Emily several times, and I learn lots of new things every single time. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lorna Bains. I am very proud to say that I am the Chief People Officer at Disguise. So welcome to all of you this afternoon. I'm absolutely thrilled to be part of this fantastic event this afternoon, this fantastic celebration of International Women's Day. I think that we are at a unique moment. I think that we have a unique opportunity right now, after the past 12 months, for all of the turbulence and all of the challenges and some of the beautiful things that happened in the past 12 months, right now is a unique opportunity to make change. So I'm super excited that we're all here talking about challenge and making change this afternoon. I don't know how I'm going to follow up after the wonderful Jackie Howes and that excellent panel discussion and Emily's physical stuff. But I am going to take a few minutes to I really want to kind of drive home the message about the necessity of challenge. You know, the hashtag is all about choosing to challenge. For me, challenge is an absolute necessity. It's more than a choice. It's a responsibility and a necessity. And there are really three reasons for me. There's three key things for me. First of all, challenge is necessary because I have to speak my truth and you have to speak your truth. Secondly, it's my mission in life, and it so happens I'm in the right job. It's my mission in life to help people grow and be more and do more and achieve their potential. Now, we've heard all the speakers talk about this afternoon. Without challenge, growth is very difficult. In fact, without challenge, growth is impossible. And I'm going to come back to that in a second. And the third thing is, without challenge, there's no change. And, you know, I just, since I was about 10 years old, I've been challenging the status quo. I never quite understood. I grew up in a small town and all of the businesses in our town were called so-and-so and son, the accountant and son, the butcher and son. And I never understood that. Why was it always and son? Why could we never have the butcher and daughter? So for me, it's just been, and all of my friends and family and colleagues will definitely recognize this in me, that actually I feel that I have to say something at every single opportunity. So I guess I'm just really encouraging you to do the same thing. When I think about challenge at work, to go back to the point about challenge at work, whatever role you're in, you're leading something. You're leading a team, a function, you're leading yourself. And when we lead, it is our responsibility to offer support, to champion, and also to offer challenge. And we've heard this a few times this afternoon. I guess what I'd just like to highlight is the importance of that balance. I've certainly had a manager who was off the scale supportive, off the scale champion, if you like. And I basically got praised for showing up on time, which, the impact of that, not very motivational. I'm not learning anything. I'm going to move on. On the other hand, I have also had a boss who's been off the chart challenging, unnecessarily challenging. What's the result of that? Frustration, disappointment, and I'm off. I'm going to say both of these managers are not a disguise. This is a long time ago. So really, for me, it's about holding these two things in balance. This idea of championing and supporting, and God knows we all need that after the past 12 months, and challenging and pushing people and encouraging people to do more and be more and to kind of be the best version of themselves. So really, I think the thing to think about is, how do you hold both of those things in balance? This is our opportunity for change. This 2021 is our opportunity for change. Today is your opportunity for change. Change only happens if there's a challenge. I encourage you to choose to challenge. Do one thing this week. Do one thing this week that really challenges you. Do one thing this week that really challenges someone else. Challenge is a good thing. I'll say that again. Challenge is a good thing. Challenge is your responsibility. Challenge is a necessity. Thank you.
Thoughts, tips, wisdoms this afternoon. Thank you, Lorna. That was a really lovely way to wrap up this afternoon. And thank you, Emily, for her brilliant practical session as well. Before I do wrap up, I do have a special announcement actually this afternoon. As you know, our work at Rise cannot happen without all of our industry supporters. And I'm actually delighted to announce our 2021 sponsors this afternoon. They're both here in the UK, in Singapore, and for the first time in North America as well, which we're really excited about. So I would just like to run through with you who those amazing sponsors are. So our headline sponsors for our education programme of work are BT Sport, ITV and Discovery. And our gold sponsors for our work here in the UK are Avid, Sony and Gravity Media. Our silver sponsors are Blackmagic, Clearcom, Red Bee, Move, DPP and Timeline. And our bronze sponsors are Object Matrix, Envy, Source Elements, M2A Media and Pixel Logic. So there are amazing sponsors here in the UK. Moving over to North America, as I say, it's the first time that we're going to be delivering activity in North America, and I'm absolutely thrilled that we'll be announcing these this afternoon. So that's ASA Pro, Avid, G Technology, Clearcom, and Source Elements. And finally, but definitely not least, our sponsors in Singapore are Digigram and Avid. Just huge thanks to every single one of them. As I say, we can't deliver any of our work without your support. So thank you so much. You really are making a difference. And collectively, I know we're all working to create this gender balanced and diverse workforce. So thank you. It's also as a result of all of this amazing sponsorship and engagement and support that we've got, that we're also launching our applications for our mentoring program today. So you can now apply to be a mentee for the 2021 programs across all 3 regions. So that's in the UK, in Singapore, and in North America for the first time. So please do go to the website and have a look at the application form. The deadline closes on the 9th of April. And if you're also interested in being a mentor, then please do reach out to me via the website as well. We're always looking for more mentors as well. So that's it. We're done. Happy International Women's Day, everybody. It's been a fantastic afternoon. I hope you've really enjoyed the session. Huge thanks to all of the team here at Disguise. Thank you so much. You've all been absolutely amazing. We couldn't do this event without you, so thank you. So yeah, thank you to Disguise. Thank you to Jackie, our incredible keynote speaker. I think you'll agree. As I said, I need to go back and watch that because there was so much content in there that I need to kind of think on and reflect on. Huge thanks to all of our panelists as well, for Tom being here in person, and of course to Emily and to Lorna as well. And lastly, but definitely not least, to all of you for signing in today and joining us this afternoon. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Stay safe, and we'll see you again soon. Yay!